All right, welcome back. More on our top story. We are just hours away from former President Donald Trump's arraignment here in New York as he is arrested this afternoon.
It is the first time in America's history a former president faces criminal charges in a case that our next guest warns will bring down our justice system.
It would have been different if he had won the governor's race. Former New York GOP Congressman Lee Zeldin joins us now. Congressman, we know we're in unprecedented areas, but around the country, they don't understand the politics of New York. Could you explain what's facing Donald Trump besides the politics behind the justice?
This is all politics. Alvin Bragg ran and even pledged before taking the oath that he was going to be personally supervising this case. He did not know what the charges were that he was going to bring against Donald Trump. He didn't know what the facts were going to be that he was going to use, but he was going to personally supervise this case. Then he actually takes the oath, issues a day one memo where he says across the board that all different kinds of charges he was not going to allow his prosecutors to go after. All sorts of other offenses he said across the board would be downgraded to lesser offenses. So now New Yorkers experienced the first few months of Alvin Bragg's tenure, and they're seeing crime in many metrics go up. Individual cases like the Jose Alba case, where this bodega worker gets attacked. He has to defend himself. He has an open stab wound. Alvin Bragg throws him into Rikers Island, asks for hundreds of thousands of dollars in bail, and the person who stabbed him ended up getting charged with nothing. So individual case after case have New Yorkers really upset that they have this prosecutor who seems to be more of a defense attorney than a district attorney. So not having a consistent law and order prosecutor here, when you fast forward to the facts of this particular case, makes a lot of people in doing that basic smell test realize that this is a political prosecution.
Well, will we see the same treatment for Democrats? Because this happens all the time. When you have successful, powerful people, they're accused of different things, and sometimes they pay people off so that they don't talk about it. It's not illegal to do that. And they sign non-disclosure agreements. Will we look into all the Democrats that have done this as well?
No, Alvin Bragg won't. And that's part of the problem. We're crossing into a new Rubicon here where some Republican district attorney somewhere in America could, in theory, be bringing charges against a Democratic former president or vice president. So this is a really slippery slope. I'm more of a student of history, and in other countries, Brian's more of a professor of history. In other countries, you have the dictatorial powers trying to manufacture charges to take out political opponents. This isn't something that we ever want to see here in our country, but today we will.
Today we will, and reportedly 34 felony counts. We'll find out what they are in about 6 hours. Meanwhile, we wanted Lee to pick your brain about a quote from AOC responding to potentially running for U.S. Senate, challenging Senator Gillibrand. She said, "Don't ask me that question. Print that." Okay, we did. There's a world, that is to say, where I'm here for a long time in this seat, in this position. There's a world where I'm not an elected official anymore. There's a world where I may be in higher office. So, you know what? I'm sure she's ambitious. The big question is, could she win at a statewide level?
I think that she can win a Democratic primary. I think that she would have a strong ground game. She'd be able to raise a lot of money. A lot of the Democratic Party primary base is in New York City, where AOC's district is located. Kirsten Gillibrand is not from New York City. The Democratic Party not just has that far left base, they have certain minority constituencies that AOC might do a better job penetrating in a Democratic Party primary. If she decides to pull the trigger on a race like this, I think she would be a very strong candidate against Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
Who doesn't do anything, just is invisible. So how will that affect whether you decide to run or not? And are you considering it?
Kirsten Gillibrand has kind of been wishing this into existence, mentioning my name in media interviews and fundraising emails. It's not anything that I was thinking about, but the more she keeps mentioning my name and I have to answer questions about it, I'm wondering maybe if as we go forward, listen, if AOC gets into this race, while I say she'll be a more competitive Democratic Party primary candidate, If she was to win a primary, she is a more deeply flawed general election opponent. So the race will be shifting in the Republicans' favor if AOC gets into the race. It is something that potentially we might look at, but at this point, we'll have to see how the race shapes up.
Well, your ears apparently are burning all the time because people are talking about you. Former Congressman Lee Zeldin, sir, thank you very much for joining us on this Tuesday morning.
Thank you.
Take care.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.